Have you ever wondered why some leaders attract respect effortlessly, while others struggle to gain even basic loyalty? What makes people look at one person and say, "That's someone I'll follow," while ignoring another? And here's the real question. Can you become that kind of leader without relying on jealousy, competition, or insecurity? If you're ready to discover the mindset of a jealousy-free leader, the kind of leader who commands respect and builds lasting influence, you're in the right place. But before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we're building a space for self-improvement, growth, and powerful transformation. Now let's begin. 1. Leading by example, not competition. True leaders don't waste time proving they're better than others. Instead, they live in a way that inspires others to rise. Leadership is not about comparison, it's about example. When you focus on competition, you shrink your influence to a battle of egos. But when you lead by example, your influence becomes limitless. A leader who constantly compares themselves to others becomes like a runner in a race who keeps looking sideways. The moment their attention shifts to outpacing the person next to them, they lose sight of the finish line ahead. In the same way, leaders who obsess over competition lose focus on the greater mission. They confuse leadership with winning a contest, when in truth, the real goal is to elevate the entire field, not just to cross the line first. Great leadership is not measured in trophies or victories, but in how many others were strengthened along the way. People follow integrity, consistency, and discipline. They don't follow someone who tries to outshine them at every turn. A jealousy-free leader shows up every day as proof of what's possible, not as a reminder of who they're trying to beat. That's the power of example. It builds respect without words. Consider the difference between a leader who spends energy proving others wrong versus one who simply embodies excellence. The first demands respect, the second commands it naturally. Words can be challenged, but example cannot be refuted. A leader who works harder than they preach, who listens more than they speak, and who remains steady regardless of outcome, becomes the kind of person others instinctively trust. They don't inspire out of intimidation, but out of admiration. Their life itself becomes a form of silent persuasion. A competitive leader fosters insecurity within their team, while a leader who leads by example fosters confidence. One environment breeds jealousy, the other breeds loyalty. The choice is clear. Leadership is not about constantly being seen as the best. It is about consistently being the one who sets the standard. People don't rally around perfection. They rally around authenticity and proof that growth is possible. To lead by example requires humility because it is not about proving, but about being. It is about showing discipline when no one is watching, about keeping promises when they cost you, about staying calm when situations invite panic. This kind of leadership cannot be staged or faked. It is revealed in the quiet, daily choices that accumulate into trust. And that trust is far stronger than any position, title, or status won through competition. 2. Building others while building yourself. A leader obsessed with keeping others small will never grow. But a jealousy-free leader understands that helping others rise does not take away from their own progress, it multiplies it. When you invest in others, you expand your own reach, your own influence, and your own legacy. A leader who hoards opportunity is like a farmer who refuses to share seed, thinking it will make his harvest greater. But in truth, the opposite is true. The more seed he plants in others, the larger the field of growth becomes. Leadership operates on the same principle. When you withhold growth from others, you shrink your own harvest. When you encourage it, you multiply beyond what you could achieve alone. This is the paradox of leadership. The more you empower others, the stronger you become. A leader who builds walls out of fear isolates themselves.
But a leader who builds bridges creates a legacy that outlasts their position or title. Growth shared is growth multiplied. A leader who constantly feels threatened by the success of others becomes a prisoner of their own insecurity. They spend energy guarding their image rather than expanding their influence. But a jealousy-free leader sees no threat in another's rising. Instead, they recognize that by helping others grow, they extend their own reach. The mentor lives on in the mentee, the coach in the player, the teacher in the student. What we build into others never truly leaves us. It expands outward in ways we could never achieve alone. Helping others rise also refines the leader themselves. Teaching someone else sharpens your own understanding. Guiding others forces you to live with greater consistency. Investing in another's growth reminds you of your own journey and keeps you grounded in humility. It is not an act of charity. It is an act of self-development that benefits both giver and receiver. True legacy is not found in achievements carved on plaques, but in lives lifted higher because you were present. The names of most kings and conquerors fade, but the names of those who built others, teachers, mentors, reformers, remain alive in the work of those they empowered. The jealous leader may win for a moment, but the generous leader builds a dynasty of influence that time cannot erase. 3. Staying grounded in praise or criticism. Leadership isn't about chasing applause or running from criticism. Both are traps. A jealousy-free leader knows that neither praise nor criticism defines them. What defines them is their commitment to their values, their mission, and their vision. Applause can be intoxicating. It makes a leader believe they're infallible, tempting them to serve the crowd instead of a cause. Criticism, on the other hand, can be paralyzing. It makes a leader fearful, hesitant, and reactive. But the grounded leader understands that both are fleeting. Today's cheers can become tomorrow's jeers. Today's critics can become tomorrow's allies. Neither should be the compass of a leader's direction. When you depend on approval, you become weak. When you fear disapproval, you become trapped. A grounded leader listens, learns, but never loses themselves in the noise. Respect grows when people see that you remain steady, whether the world claps for you or criticizes you. That steadiness is power. The leader who rises and falls with public opinion becomes like a ship tossed on waves, directionless, unstable, and exhausting to follow. But the leader anchored in values is like a lighthouse, unmoved by storms, guiding others not through noise, but through consistency. In the long run, people trust not the leader who bends with every wind of praise or attack, but the one who stands firm regardless of the climate. Criticism can be a teacher, and praise can be an encouragement, but neither is a master. The jealousy-free leader treats both as passing voices, not defining verdicts. They accept praise with gratitude, but without pride. They accept criticism with humility, but without self-doubt. They remain grounded, knowing that their worth is not assigned by others, but upheld by their inner commitment to what is right. The true measure of leadership is not how loudly the crowd cheers, nor how harshly the critics condemn, but how faithfully the leader remains aligned with principle. When others see that steadiness, they find strength in it. They realize that leadership is not about being loved or feared, it is about being trustworthy. And trust is earned, not by chasing approval or avoiding criticism, but by remaining grounded, unshaken, and steadfast in both.
4. Creating opportunities for others. Small leaders hoard opportunities. Great leaders create them. A jealousy-free leader doesn't fear being outshined. They know that the success of others strengthens the whole team, the whole mission. Instead of competing with those they lead, they provide platforms for others to shine. This is the difference between someone who leads for their ego and someone who leads for a cause. Ego-driven leaders see every rising star as a threat to their own relevance, but true leaders recognize that their role is to multiply impact, not monopolize it. By opening doors, making introductions, and giving others the stage, they amplify the reach and strength of their mission. In truth, the measure of a leader is not how much they personally achieve, but how much they help others achieve while under their guidance. Creating opportunities is not just generosity, it's a strategic mindset that builds lasting legacies. This doesn't make you less, it makes you more. A leader who lifts others proves they're secure, confident, and forward-thinking. Insecure leaders crush ambition in others, fearing that someone else's rise means their own fall. But a secure leader understands that when one person rises, the team as a whole benefits. In an orchestra, a conductor doesn't silence the violins out of fear they'll drown out the brass. They make sure every instrument plays to its fullest potential, so the music swells into something magnificent. Likewise, great leaders don't fear another's brilliance. They orchestrate it. They understand that when they give others space to grow, they're not making themselves smaller. They're showing that their influence is so strong it can extend beyond themselves. Respect doesn't come from controlling people's growth, but from being the one who encouraged it. That's how leaders leave a mark that lasts long after they're gone. A leader who creates opportunities also cultivates loyalty in a way no command or order ever could. People remember the ones who believed in them when they doubted themselves, the ones who took a chance on them when others overlooked them. Opportunity has a ripple effect. It multiplies. When you empower someone, they are far more likely to turn around and empower others. This chain reaction transforms ordinary groups into thriving cultures, where everyone seeks not just personal gain, but collective growth. By contrast, leaders who hoard opportunities stifle creativity, breed resentment, and sabotage their own legacy. No one remembers the boss who blocked progress out of fear. Everyone remembers the mentor who said, "I see something in you, go ahead and try." That one simple gesture can alter the course of a life, and in doing so, it alters the course of history in ways that no single leader could ever accomplish alone. To create opportunities for others is to embrace abundance over scarcity. Scarcity says, there's only enough space at the top for one. Abundance says, the more we rise together, the higher the mountain becomes. A jealousy-free leader embodies this abundance. They know that opportunities aren't finite, that greatness isn't diminished when shared, and that building others up doesn't cost them their own strength. In fact, it increases it. History shows us countless examples of this truth. The generals who trained successors, the teachers whose students surpassed them, the entrepreneurs who built teams that outlasted their lifetimes. All of them understood that leadership is not about being the brightest star. It's about creating a galaxy where many stars can shine. That is the kind of leadership that changes not only teams and organizations, but the very fabric of society itself.
Number 5, becoming a leader people trust. At the heart of leadership is trust. Without it, authority collapses. With it, respect grows naturally. Titles, positions, or power can force compliance, but they cannot create loyalty. People might obey a fearful leader temporarily, but they will never truly follow them. A jealousy-free leader earns trust because they're not threatened by others. They don't manipulate, compete, or control. Instead, they guide, support, and uplift. Their presence brings stability rather than tension, encouragement rather than fear. When people know their leader is secure and free of envy, they relax. They feel safe to contribute ideas, to take risks, and to grow. Trust, then, is not simply a soft quality. It is the foundation upon which every great team, family, or organization is built. People trust leaders who are real, who are steady, and who genuinely want others to succeed. Authenticity builds trust because it reveals a leader who has nothing to hide, nothing to prove, and nothing to protect. A jealous leader, by contrast, is constantly guarding their position, comparing themselves to others, and subtly undermining those around them. Over time, their insecurity corrodes the bond between them and their team. But a jealousy-free leader is transparent about their strengths and weaknesses, honest about their intentions, and consistent in their actions. They do not promise what they cannot deliver. They do not shift with every wind of emotion. They show up the same whether the room is full of powerful allies or struggling subordinates. And in this steadiness, people find something rare, someone they can rely on. Trust also grows when leaders create an environment where others are not merely useful tools, but valued human beings. A leader who sees their people as partners, not pawns, inspires a different level of commitment. This is why respect follows effortlessly when trust is present. When people sense that their leader genuinely wants them to thrive, they give their best effort, not out of fear of punishment, but out of gratitude and belief in the mission. Jealous leaders demand loyalty. Jealousy-free leaders earn it. The difference is enormous. One produces shallow compliance, the other produces deep dedication. One collapses when pressure comes, the other holds firm because it is rooted in mutual respect. The essence of true leadership is not fear, not competition, but trust. A leader who cannot be trusted will eventually lead no one. Their team may stay near them in body, but will drift away in spirit. Innovation dies under them. Creativity suffocates. But where trust is strong, the opposite happens. People dare to dream, to risk, and to aim higher than they thought possible. This is why becoming a leader people trust is not a side concern. It is the very core of leadership itself. Jealousy-free leaders cultivate trust by proving day after day that they are not competing against their own people, but cheering for them. They know that trust, once earned, multiplies in ways that strategy alone never could. A trusted leader can move mountains, not because of their power, but because of the willing hearts that follow them. That is leadership in its purest form. Not domination, not envy, but trust that turns individuals into a united force capable of extraordinary things.
So the path to becoming a jealousy-free leader is clear. Lead by example. Build others as you build yourself. Stay grounded in both praise and criticism. Create opportunities instead of hoarding them, and earn trust through authenticity. The world doesn't need more insecure leaders. It needs leaders who inspire through strength, humility, and vision. And that can be you. If you're ready to rise into that role, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, true leadership is not about being above others, but about lifting others as you rise. And if this message spoke to you, make sure you subscribe for more powerful insights on self-improvement and leadership. Together, we'll continue shaping the mindset of leaders who don't just demand respect, but command it by the way they live.